Hello and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I wanted to share with you how I took this plain looking advent calendar that we found in a vintage shop for 10 bucks and gave it a makeover to become a colorful and wonderful addition to our holiday home decor. Let's begin. So as you can see, this is just a plain box style advent calendar with little drawers that is meant to be a craft project and personalized. There are 24 little drawers that have tiny little knobs, which I will be removing these and doing something totally different. What's really cool about this piece is that it's also battery operated. So there's a battery pack in the back, and the little houses in the front look like they have lights in them and they would light up. What you see me doing here with the battery pack is I noticed that it's an on and off only switch, and I would want to change this out for a battery pack that's a 3-volt with a timer option. So I was just seeing how easy it would be to remove this and get it out so that I could change this later on. Of course, when I turned it over, all the drawers fell out. Well, except for a couple of them that seemed to be a little tight in there. When I tilt it up, you can see where the lights are glued up inside those little houses. And this is going to be such a cute little feature and a cool effect when I am all finished with it. I gathered up the little drawers and got them out of the way so I could see where I wanted to begin this project and what I wanted to do first. Looking it over, I did find that there were some loose pieces, and so I wanted to take care of those. And then I also wanted to get everything sanded down. The surface of this wood was very porous and also not the best quality, and so it had some texture to it and the edges were not clean, so I wanted to just sand everything. So that is where I began. Using a big powder brush, I got the first bit of the dust from the sanding off of my project, and then I went on to grab a hot gun to use as a blow dryer to blow the dust off the project better, and also to get the dust off of my workspace. Now to glue on these pieces that came off during the sanding. I used Gorilla Wood glue to put them back on, and then I used my 1, 2, 3 blocks to hold the pieces down until dry. Next thing I wanted to do was see how easily I could get the battery compartment off the back, which wasn't hard. I just unscrewed the 4 little screws holding it in. I put batteries in it because I was so anxious to see what it looked like all lit up, and it was really, really cute. And like I said, I will change this battery pack out by cutting the wires and putting a new one to give it a timer. I then started sanding the 24 drawers. First, I was pulling off the little knobs, which I will save for another project. I wanted to change out the knobs for this project, so I needed to take them all off, give them all a good sanding, and then clean them off with the brush and wipe them down. I did notice that a couple of the drawers needed some repairing, and so at that point I did glue them before moving on. I then decided to paint the entire box on the inside and out, and I used a nutmeg brown acrylic paint, but it wasn't going on smooth enough, so I did add some fluid medium to it, and it definitely helped with the paint flow all over it. And what's funny is that even though I went through this step of painting everything, because my first thought was gingerbread house, I ended up covering it, as you're going to see in a little bit, so some of the areas probably didn't need to be painted, but it's okay. It's better to have the base painted before doing anything else anyway. I moved on to the front, as you see here. And then from there, I start doing inside, because I figured when the drawers would be pulled out, you would see the inside of it. And so I just figured it was best to do it inside too. It was very, very awkward to get a paintbrush into all those inside of the little squares in each level, but I managed to do it. And it was kind of worth it in the end. It was at this point that I realized that this whole time I had been using my Better mat and not one that I usually paint on, so I'm using alcohol to get up the acrylic paint before it sets in. Switching out my work mats, I continued on with all 24 of the drawers, painting them inside and out. I wanted to paint the background of the sky in this area as well as these houses, so I had the bright idea of removing everything to get them out, to paint them individually and then glue them back down. But this glue was really, really strong. I did manage to get the trees out. The first one came out relatively easy, as you can see here. It was just glued at the base. And then the other one broke when I was trying to get it out, but that's okay, it was easy to glue back in. And these houses were very stuck. I thought about taking them out and painting them individually, but they weren't coming out no matter what I tried, so I had to use a small paintbrush and paint this entire scene with them still intact. I used the splattering technique to get my snow into the background on the blue. Quite messy, but very effective. I know I mentioned it earlier, but this was the point in the process where I decided to cover up all those areas that I had painted brown on the back and the sides with a brick effect. And I love making brick walls out of foam board. So I took all the black paper off the foam board on each side. It was a little difficult to do. This was the dollar store brand, and it's always so hard to get the paper off of it. I laid the house down and I traced it all out, and I got all the cuts in, and it actually worked out really well this way, and it was a perfect fit. I then traced and cut out the battery pack section of the foam board. And then after that, I worked on my sides, and I just kept trimming away until I got them to be exact. Then I started drawing in all my bricks and grout lines, and I put the sides next to the back so that I could try to line them up as best that I could. After I had drawn in my bricks, I then went back over with a plastic spatula type tool to make the grout lines even deeper, so that when I painted them and then I painted the red over the top, that there would be an elevation for the red paint to adhere to. I painted all the surfaces of my foam board bricks with a beige gray color that would act as my grout and the base for my red brick color to go over the top of. I was making sure to get into all those little grout lines as best I could. I went on to paint the bricks a red color, which was a actual brick red. And I painted it all over it. I wasn't really being all that neat and tidy about it. I was just brushing it on and then wiping off the excess, and just so that none of the bricks were a consistent color, because bricks aren't. And then if anything got into the grout, then I would use a tool and scrape out the red paint that was in there. I kept doing this method until my big piece and the sides were complete. After I finished with all the red bricks and cleaning out the grout and it had dried, I then used some black wash to age it, and then I finished it up with Mod Podge to seal and protect the brick. The next step for the bricks was to dry fit them onto the Advent house to make sure that everything was good, and I was happy with everything before I glued it all down. So that's what you see me doing right here. There's a line where the sides and the back don't quite line up exactly on either side, but that's okay because it's going to be filled in later. While I was waiting for the brick to dry on the Advent house, I went back to the trees that I had removed in the beginning. I had painted them green, and after that was dry, I used glue and some green flocking to create a three-dimensional structure to the tree. I really loved the way that these turned out, and I'm glad I took the extra step to do it. This image is showing the little houses after they were painted. I am sorry, but I didn't get it on video. It was done off camera. Thought it was being recorded, but it wasn't. But I used a small paintbrush and just carefully painted everything. And then I painted the ground a white as well after I was done. And after it was all dried, I moved on to the snow effect, which luckily I did capture on video for you to see. To create the snow, what you see me using is a lightweight spatula. I had used this a couple of years ago when I did a dollar store plastic dollhouse miniature makeover to create the plastic dollhouses into gingerbread houses that now sit in my kitchen every year. It's a very easy way to create snow and fluff within a scene. You can use any kind of tool to push it around. I started off with a little plastic spatula to kind of get behind the houses because, like I said, I couldn't move them, so I had to get in and around and behind them. So I just had to really turn the house this way and that way, and then you'll see me using my fingers as well, because my fingers and hands are my favorite tools. And then also a paintbrush at the end to kind of do more delicate areas that I needed to do. You see me using the water on my paintbrush, and what that does with this particular medium is it smooths out the spackling. It makes it kind of have a wet look, and it kind of melts it a little bit, and so it's not as clumpy, and it just has more of a smooth finish. When all my snow was completed, I went over with Mod Podge to give it a shiny, glassy, wet finish that snow would have. You could also use a clear glitter or something else to make your snow glisten, but for this particular project, I didn't really think that was necessary. The Mod Podge gave me enough of a shine. While my snow areas were drying, I got to work on my drawer fronts. I had purchased 2 small packets of scrapbook paper from Michael's, and because each book had the pages that were different scenes on each side, I was given tons of different options to choose from, which also meant I could give myself 24 different scenes of paper, which is what I wanted. I just had to take the time to go through the pages and play around with where they would go and deciding which colors should go where, and I love that each one was different. I cut the pattern paper down to the size of the door front, and although close, I wasn't careful to make them an exact fit just yet, because after they were glued and dried, I would be cutting the edges with more precision. I used regular white Elmer's glue because I found it to be the easiest and the best glue to use during this process. For my new little drawer fronts, I used miniature little ornaments that I had found, I believe it was maybe Hobby Lobby. And once the paper was glued to the front of the drawers, then I had to poke the hole back through where the original handles were. And I had to do a little bit of shaving away at the part that went into the hole from the ornament, but it really worked. It ended up being really, really cute. So I was really happy with it. What you see me doing here is doing the more precise cutting as I told you I was going to do. So after everything was dry, I went through with a very sharp new blade and I went just to the edge of the wood to make sure I got a real clean cut. After I got all the drawers cut, I went back over all 4 sides of every drawer with a metallic bronze permanent marker. Doing this technique gave it a nice finished antique look, and on this color brown, the bronze really does pop. I went back and forth on what to do the numbers with for all the drawers, and I ended up finding these little number tokens on Amazon from Ideology. I love their stuff. So the little antique look just was the perfect thing for the drawers. I glued them down, and then after they were dry, I went over the drawers, including the knobs, everything, with about 3 different layers of Mod Podge to preserve it, to protect it, and to keep everything sealed. Now it is time to move on to taking out the old battery pack and putting in the new one with timer. This is a digital voltage checker or multimeter. To make sure it's working properly and the batteries are good to go, I'm going to turn it on and then turn to continuity checker and touch the 2 ends together. And if I hear a beep, I know it's good to go. Got the beep, so it's now good to go. I then turned the dial to DC because that's the type of power we are needing to be testing with. This old battery box will be replaced with a new battery box because the old one didn't have a timer and the new one does. The old unit batteries are in and working, but what we don't know at this point is which wires are which. because we will have to connect the positive to a positive and a negative to a negative, and we have to determine that before cutting any wires. I would like to take a moment to interject right here that I did this part of my project under supervision. I am still learning how to work with wires and electricity and lighting within my miniature projects, and since I have an in-house electrical engineer to help with that, I am really learning a lot. So I'm giving a shout out and appreciation on my hubby's help and input. So let's continue. By touching both endpoints, you will get 3 volts regardless, but you will either see a negative symbol in the voltage on the unit, or you will see no symbol in the voltage on the reader. By touching the black to one wire while touching the other, I get a negative 3 volt, which I don't want. So I need to turn them and try it again. I should now get no symbol and 3 volt, and that's exactly what happens. The negative symbol went away. So this tells me the right side where I have the black pointer is the negative side. In this scenario, the left side is red and the right side is black. So I will mark these wires accordingly using a black and red permanent marker. By doing this, I will know which wire is negative and which one is positive. So then I can then cut the wires and I will know which is which. Now I need to do the same thing with the new battery pack, and I put batteries in it to make sure it worked, and it does. Now I need to take the batteries out because you don't want to cut the wire with the batteries in. Now I know I can cut these wires cutting the LED lights off, and I can use them in a different project at another time. And then I will need to, after cutting them, I will also need to split them. I want to give myself enough wire to work with. So I figured that out before cutting it. Now what you see me doing is splitting the wires into 2. I strip a little less than a 1/2 inch of the insulation off by using strippers, and I put the batteries back into the new unit and I test it like I did before to determine which is which so they could be joined properly. I used 1, 2, 3 blocks to weigh down the wire so I could get a good contact on each end and see what I get. In this rotation, I'm getting a negative 3 volt, which means the black lead and point is touching the positive wire. So switched, I push the leads down on each exposed wire, and now the meter is reading 3 volt without the negative symbol. So I now know that the red lead is touching the positive, and I need to color my wires accordingly again. I just want to verify that I'm correct, so touching the black to black and the red to the red, I should have 3 volt positive, which I do. I am now finished with the multimeter. Now I need to cut down the wires from the old battery pack, but before I do, I want to remove the batteries so there's no voltage. Once I cut the wires off the old battery pack, I will be confirming I have a red for each and a black for each, and I will be joining red to red and black to black. I cut the wires as close as I could in order to have enough wire to work with on the old battery pack. I now have to strip back the wire insulation like I did for the new one. Before moving on, we need to find the heat shrink size that matches our wire size the best. I found the size I needed and I cut it to 2 different equal lengths, and I slid them up on my wires. They have to be on first before you solder. Now to join the wires together, I'm going to level out the ends where the insulation is, hold firmly, and then twist the wires together. You want to double check that the 2 reds are together and the 2 blacks are together. Now these joints need to be soldered together before the heat shrink can be put over them. Plugging in the soldering tool and wait for it to heat up, approximately 10 minutes. Caution, it is extremely hot. I also will be using an extractor fan and wearing a face mask for this process. To test that the iron is hot enough, touch it to a piece of the soldering wire and you should see this reaction. For the process, touch the hot iron to the wires that you want to solder and then apply the soldering wire as well. And this creates what is known as a capillary action when you touch all these things together. The combination of this melts the liquid filler metal into this entire space, making the two connected wires become one cohesive wire, ensuring a strong, sealed, and permanent bond. Once the wires have cooled to the touch, you then slide the heat shrink up over those soldered areas. Using a lighter, let the flames briefly hit the plastic to shrink it around those wires and those joints. Be very careful with this lighter in doing this process, as you do not want to melt the insulation on the wires, nor anything on your projects that might be around, such as the foam on the back of this house. I had to be super careful not to get too close. I then pinched them again just to make sure that the bond was secure. Now the exciting part is putting in the batteries and see if it works. Turning it around, success. Now to work out how to get this battery pack into this space. And because I had cut the foam board originally to the dimensions of the old battery pack that I took off, so I had the idea of cutting out the battery pack off the frame that it sat on, and I just carefully did this with a very, very sharp knife, and I just kept going over it again and again and again until I got it to where it would fit in. Once the new one was in that old frame, I then used hot glue to put it together, because this way I knew I could easily remove it if I ever needed to. I then used 2 of the screws and I put it back in. I didn't use all 4 because it really wasn't necessary. I just needed it in there to be secure. I then screwed eyelets into each side of the roof line where it could go into the wood so it would be secure, and I also glued it. I used a green wire which I twisted in double thickness so that it could be held securely either against a wall or a door or wherever I might want to put it. It was at this point that I realized I needed a dowel at the back to keep it straight up and down so that the drawers wouldn't slide forward, which they did a little bit hanging up. So I had to get out my little miniature table saw. I love this little saw, and I had gotten it off Amazon, I believe. But anyway, cutting the dowel, I then painted it and then glued it onto the back, and I just painted it brown like the rest of the house. But it really did solve my problem with keeping the house straight. Now for the fun bit and the final touches. I got to fill all the little drawers with little treats and candy. So the idea for this is that each day the wreath would move over to the next day's knob, and the person who removed it would get the candy that was inside of it, and it would just count down all the way down to the 24th, Christmas Eve. And as an extra treat, one of these little drawers will have a special little addition. Here's the last few final images of the project. And I was really happy with the way that it turned out and excited that we can use it year after year. I decided to put it up on our pantry door in the kitchen. Thank you for joining me again on my channel, and I was so happy to share with you this holiday advent calendar makeover, which was so much fun and such a joy to make. I learned a lot in the process, as I always do with every new project I create, and for this one, with the electrics especially. I hope it encourages you to do new projects as well. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.